I always start with drums. Like, what kind of rhythm do I want here? How bouncy is it? Yeah, once you have your first sample, you kind of think about what would go together and how to string it along. It's a reiterative process. Yeah, just play around, see what happens. That's.
Welcome to the Afikra Quartertone podcast. My name is Mikey Mhenna. Today on this series, I am joined by DJ Nooriyah, who is based in London, has lived all over the world and performs all over the world, whose work I first came across because of the now iconic Boiler Room set, which has taken the internet by storm. Nooriyah, welcome to Afikra.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to talk about everything we have in store today.
I'm excited too. Do you remember the first time you thought of yourself as a DJ?
Yeah, actually, I do. Because I had a particular story because I was in community radios at the time doing voiceovers like, good morning, you're listening to all that jazz. And I just remember...
Of course you were doing voiceover, because the first time I met you, I was like, this person has the smoothest honey-soaked voice I've ever heard in my entire life.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I appreciate that. And I just remember seeing the decks. And when I was little, I used to pretend I'm a cashier all the time because I loved pressing buttons. And I knew from then on that I really wanted to learn how to operate the DJ decks. And I remember practicing, and it was a very intentional next move from voiceover acting. Yeah.
Do you remember... I mean, you probably do. Do you remember what decks they were? Because I'll tell you, yeah. I obsessed over the Technics 1200s. I was obsessed with them.
Yes, that's a really cool question. Nobody ever asked that, but I kind of was lucky at my community radio station to have the golden standard of the CDJ 2000s at the time, which is still used to this day. There are the 3000s now, but a lot of the venues that I play at and festivals are still the 2000s, my beloved. Yes.
That's great. Did you primarily like the way they looked and the sort of the vibe around them? Or were you a fan of club music, or a fan of scratching, or a fan of beat juggling, or a fan of what sort of drew you in specifically? Because they have an ability to have a kind of a CDJ mode and a vinyl mode. So if you want to scratch, you can. If you don't want to, yeah. And also the sleek and the way the lights are and the different colors. I just quite love how sleek it is and how much you can do with it in terms of adding your own flavor and mixing. Yeah. 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 So I was reading about you, and the first line of any bio that I came across is Nooriyah, born in Saudi Arabia, raised in Japan, now based in London. Do you think of those three locations as the central coordinates of the triangle that sort of describes your biography? I think so. But over time, of course, I think it's more heavily growing up in Saudi and the UK, specifically London, I have to say, because there's a particular musical culture in London to the forefront, but there are lots of influences, and especially if you've watched some of my work, that Japanese, for example, anime comes through and cartoon theme songs come through. So definitely those are my three main pillars in my childhood. What took you to Japan? My dad's job at the time. He's an engineer and he had a project there. Yeah. Was it you lived there for a long time? Yeah, a couple of years. Yeah. And then moved to London. Yeah. Okay, so I want you to describe the musical London that you grew up in as a kid. Are you sort of a UK garage kid? What kid are you? Yeah, half and half. So a big theme song, for example, that would come up is Bonkers by Dizzy Rascal. That's or Dido back in the day. Of course. Yeah, it's a variety. Or Natasha Bedingfield. That's the London I grew up in. Okay. No Artful Dodger. No, I think I'm maybe a little bit You're too young. Now I'm telling you what my
your
UK
age
experience was. I'm telling you my age. That's interesting. Okay, that's cool. When did you think okay, this is actually going to be my job?
I knew that this is gonna be my job when I started. So I kind of had the intention for it to become my job. But the minute I knew that it's become a reality is probably maybe 2 years ago after the pandemic. I knew that this is sustainable financially. Yeah.
Any resistance to this idea? I feel like it's not a career track that most parents who have kids born in Saudi Arabia take them. Engineer parents who take their kids to Japan
Well,
and then move to London are like amazing.
well,
I support this 1,000%.
Yeah, no, I have an academic background and a master's in public health. That's my first love. I chose it myself. No parents' influence, even though I guess my mom is a nurse, so it kind of, I guess
It's impossible
she
to
loved
escape
health.
the parents' influence.
And but also I loved it very much. Like my mom would tell me when I was 5, I'd be like, "Oh, eat mangoes for this health benefit." Like I was that type of kid, and I to this day I love how global health works. And of course, during the pandemic, we were working quite hard, like around COVID and stuff. And yeah, public health was my first love, so it wasn't a big deal. Like my parents were like, "Oh, she's always got this." But naturally, my parents had worries around kind of the types of environment that DJs frequent because, there's a lot of things to demystify around the club and what happens in a club. And I think, and festivals even, but I think over time, I kind of started inviting them. Actually, after 6 years, I started inviting them to see what it's like to perform and how safe things can be. And things were better from there.
It's how safe they can be. It's not how safe they always are, though, right?
Yeah, but in terms of the measures that I take myself for my own protection, and I was like, okay, great. Like you're thinking about this quite well. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to ask you.
Yeah.
There is a 13-year-old young boy or girl listening to this podcast right now, and who wants to protect themselves in those environments.
Yeah.
What is the Nooriyah guide to protecting yourself in the club industry?
Firstly, if you're 12 or 13, please don't come to the club.
No, mashallah. And no, they're preparing in 10 years from now. They're like, I want to be a 23-year-old who feels safe to pursue this professionally, to express myself, to protect my body and my mind and my spirit. How do I do it? Nooriyah, teach me your tricks.
Yeah, so the first thing I do, I go a little bit earlier before my set. I make sure to know all the security that's on the ground of wherever I play, and I make myself known. I'm like, hey, I'm an artist. Please keep an eye on me for certain things, whether it's people approaching too close, whatever it may be, depending on the particular environment or the set itself. So that's the first thing I do, make myself known. Hey. And usually I find that security pays more attention to you once you've flagged yourself. There are certain things where over time, you pick up a skill of kind of how to de-escalate things should things happen. The power of saying no to things, or saying I've got this is also important, because sometimes people jump on the decks, and kind of, violate your space. And another thing with the security, I have like a signal. If I'm in trouble, I just have a signal and they would come over and, for my aid. I think that's the biggest, thing I would say to do. Make sure if you kind of anticipate risk around you. So if there's someone, I don't know, you see that is not doing well for whatever reason, always flag them. So it's kind of all about de-escalating before anything happens, and then making sure that
has this happened? Like, did you learn this from somebody, or is this
no? It's
something
just something that I over time came to do, and nothing actually negative happened so far, thankfully. But it's just a precaution for myself. Yeah. Yeah.
Did you start playing professionally in the UK? That's like where you sort of birthed your career?
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
And when's the first time you sort of went on the road and started playing in other places that feel a little more foreign?
I think it was before the pandemic, and I think it might have been Paris. Yeah. Okay. Which isn't so different. But then, over time now, I think I've been... Oh, no, I tell a lie. The first other place was New York, actually. Yeah, New York. NYC Halloween party. Yes.
Nice. Like right now, I feel like there's this this emergence, and you're a part of that, of Arab world, Middle East, SWANA, whatever word you want to use. Broadly, like brown people who play music at night and like to dance, right? There's this like a very well-branded trend of that type of stuff. When you first started playing music, were you like, these are my people and this is my music and this is who I play for? Or like, I just play dance music. That's what I play.
I think at the beginning it wasn't a footprint that existed at the time.
Yeah.
I think 7-ish, 8 years ago. And I just remember having to play all the popular things that people would recognize before introducing any SWANA sprinkles. And it's kind of like all about educating the dance floor. And it happened so slowly over the years to the point where, you know, the idea that this exists in the way that it does now and people recognize it is a long time coming, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So for people who don't know, tell us, what is Middle of Nowhere?
Middle of Nowhere is a party series that I created that kind of was born from me being super bored of the curations of the nights and events that I was playing. I felt like you would either have SWANA music played in silos, so like sort of on its own, especially the nostalgic sounds, and then everything else, you know, in other parties. And I kind of found that as a destructive or not a positive way of moving the narrative forward, that actually SWANA music is as infectious as some of the other popular genres that really sprung into action, like Amapiano, Afrobeats, and their popularity, and how we love dancehall, how we love even whatever it may be. I just felt that we are equally infectious, and I wanted them to be part of the tapestry of kind of you going to the club and hearing it and vibing with it alongside everything else, rather than having people who come knowing what they expect. I wanted something that challenged people. And some of our first parties included like a genre clash between Latin music and SWANA music. And the reason I've done that is because we actually have a really deep rooted history in terms of how our rhythms and a lot of our music is parallel and overlaps. And I just think, I wanted Middle of Nowhere to be a place for me to experiment. Yeah, with curation.
Cool.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, this moment, this sort of like moment of, and I'm gonna describe this photo that we have on the screen for people who are listening to this podcast. I'm gonna describe it the way sort of like an AI generated tool would describe a photo, right? Like club scene, female DJ wearing a sort of a tank toppy red shirt, sits next to Arab man dressed in traditional clothing playing oud, right? In a boiler room set, right? Which now has become like a very iconic image for people who live on social media. Did you know that this would go as viral as it did?
Honestly, I think so. I don't know. I think it's not because of the image at all. It's because of how rare it was to have these sounds played, period, in the space that I was in. Like, this is a recent kind of spring into the world that happened, in terms of how it's recognized. At the time when this was happening, we were some of the very few parties or some of the very few DJs that has played this sound. So yeah, I kind of had a feeling.
I think I have this right. That's your dad.
Yeah.
Okay. So
his name is
walk
Qais.
me through Qais. Okay. Abu Nooriyah, right? This person, walk me through the moment that you pitched this idea to him.
It was actually simpler than everyone thinks. I was just like, hey, I've been doing this for a while and you've come to some of my sets and you've been enjoying it. And I know that the oud has been your best friend for many years and you've had this as a hobby. And by the way, my dad is part of a oud conservatory here in London. And I know that it's a huge passion of his. And I I feel like I got to kind of play music for a living, and I wanted to share that stage with him. So I was like, hey, this is happening. This is what a boiler room is. I don't think he really understood the extent of it, but I tried to describe it. I was like, oh, it's like they have a YouTube channel. It has like maybe 3 million subscribers, but I just love you for 5 minutes to share the stage with me if you don't mind. And he just said, okay, whatever kind of thing. He didn't really know the extent of it. And I just remember after he played and went backstage that he kind of understood a little bit more in that moment. So after the fact, which is kind of sweet. And the idea, I think for me, it's beyond kind of having this viral moment. It's the idea that it's also a moment for me and my dad to kind of share this together because of how much I felt sacrifices he's done in his life for me to be in this space to begin with. And then the other part is that I had a lot of messages of girls saying like, it's really nice seeing a Baba support his daughter in this way and how kind of encouraging it was. So it's kind of both personal and kind of other, I guess, in the way that it kind of spread. That message was important to me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Had you guys like rehearsed? Did you play at home, or was it really freestyle?
It was half because we had 10 minutes of practice to do this. And then we had sound check, which was going against us in a way, but I still wanted to do it regardless. And yeah, it wasn't. We should have practiced more, I have to say. Also, my dad, I don't know if you noticed, he said a dad joke at the beginning because he was sweating profusely and he was like, Nooriyah did not tell me it is a boiler room, and proceeded to wipe his sweat whilst it was recording and it was time for him to already play. So it was like a very haphazard moment that was there. And bless him, his oud was no longer tuned correctly because of the heat. Everything was just sliding through, but we worked through it.
It's on brand. If you're going to be a dad, you got to make a dad joke.
Oh, 100%, clearly.
After this, was he like the most popular guy at the office?
I mean, he literally told me, oh, my dad is retired, but he literally kept asking me, do you know this girl, like in terms of people who went up to him afterwards. And I'm like, I literally don't, these are strangers who are showing my Baba love, and it's really sweet. And to this day, I get emails about him like, hey, can we hire your dad? So yeah, he's everyone's Baba in a way at this point.
It's so cute. It's so cute. So are you going to go on tour with him? What's the plan?
You know what? I don't know.
When can we buy the t-shirt?
I don't know. I feel like I love how Baba's taking his retirement like quite seriously, like he's gardening and stuff, and I don't want to impede on that. Touring is a very heavy duty activity, I think.
It's true. Listen, if you don't sign him, somebody else is going to sign him. You got to be careful.
Don't snatch my Baba. I need him. Thank you.
It's really, really, really sweet. And I love the sort of this, you guys looking at each other throughout the thing. And he's such a performer. It's hilarious.
Well, this was not planned. I was like, how did you, he's in a different lifetime. If he didn't need to spring out of poverty when he was younger and kind of chose the career that he chose, I do think, and the avenues were available, I do think he would have been an amazing musician for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you put together a set like this, how many times, so let me ask this properly. When I see a set like this that is going to sort of be immortalized and live on a YouTube page, obviously it's all super well rehearsed, right? Like you're kind of it's not at all.
Well, in this case, because the whole night was curated by myself and a lot of the aspects of production were also on my shoulder, whether it's from set design to the guest list to how things look from projector, whatever it may be. I had my first job was actually putting all of those aspects together of production. And I don't know if you've ever performed and produced an event. It's a lot of weight, I think. And honestly, I put the set together a week before, and all the other time in terms of preparation was all around production, honestly. And I think I think I had a particularly challenging time with it, if I have to say, if I am honest. But yeah, all worked out, I hope. I think that's why there are so many kind of human mistakes that happened in the set. But it's okay.
Do you think the human mistakes are things that I could pick up, or just are things you pick up?
I think both, maybe. Yeah.
I think it's more just you.
No, there
Sabaha.
was a point someone literally stopped the music, like with their palm, with their elbow.
Yeah, but that's not a you mistake.
Yeah, no, but as in, okay, that's not a me mistake. I don't know, maybe. I think there are certain, for example, transitions that if I was not playing, if I well rehearsed at one, and if I wasn't playing kind of a immortalized set that I knew was, I think they might have not happened. So I think it's a particular environment that, yeah, I don't know how to describe it, but I remember at the time I was like, oh, I could have done way better after I watched it the first time. But I feel like that's every artist sometimes. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to ask you another question.
Yeah.
Like Homie in the Hat right next to you, right?
Yeah, Abdulisms, yes.
Like, are you enjoying this this energy, or are you like, guys, can you just like
no,
back up off me?
I think I was so shocked by the way that people showed up. Abdulisms is actually a creative director who supports everybody.
Really nice guy.
Supports
nice guy.
everyone in the scene. So I really need to give him a shout out. He's also part of Iraqafella, which is how I know of him. But everyone else behind me, I have no idea who they are. There are people who come to middle of nowhere parties and have kind of become part of a community together, because everyone just suddenly becomes friends. And this is what I love about middle of nowhere. And I am honestly, to this day, quite shocked about the energy that people came with. I think at the time people knew the gravity of what this meant, not just for the people in the room, but also for the sound as a whole, like in terms of culturally. So yeah, really happy with this energy. I loved it.
I always wonder when I see these boiler room videos, like, how do you finagle your way into that frame?
I don't know. It's like maybe I was gonna have a really poor description of kind of, you know, when you pop a pimple, like you just need to squeeze through until the
You just have to, exactly. Or have like amazing wasta.
Also, by the way, people have such respect for whenever I have sets like this, and even sometimes whenever I have headline sets, I love people around me. And people have such respect about giving you kind of space as you come in. But later on, sometimes things you need to tell people to back off. But usually, yeah.
Yeah, you got to do it. You got to throw up the sign to the security.
Yeah.
Okay. Since this is Quartertones, we asked you to pick 3 interludes for us to listen to and talk about. So let's jump into the first one.
Okay.
Which you sent these tracks. So these don't exist on YouTube. And so tell us what the first track is. I think it's AMMA X SHUTDOWN.
Oh, okay. Yes. So one of them actually exists on YouTube. The other 2 don't. These are 3 edits that I created for my boiler room set. The first one is a mashup of BNAYYA with SHUTDOWN by Skepta. And I just was bringing my 2 cultural worlds together. Yeah.
Cool. All right, let's listen to it.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have
And
a
then it
question.
just
This
loops.
is excellent.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
So fun. Okay, so I have a question for you. How many versions of this file do you think you had made before you had hit export?
Maybe 17.
Yeah.
I also was collaborating with a producer based off of Iraq called USF Fox. And so like when you're collaborating with people, the files also increase. So yeah, in terms of also mixing and things like that. Yeah.
And in terms of like source material, there are basically two sources, or are you pulling in samples from other things and
there are over
new bass lines?
Yeah, over two for sure. There's the drums, and there are 3 different samples in this track. Various 3 kind of main samples, and then as well as there are ad libs in it. So yeah, lots of things pulled here. Yeah.
Do you like it when, if you were at a club, right, you were hanging out or you're at a festival and somebody plays this track, are you like, dude, what the hell? Or are you like, amazing, they're playing my mashup or my mix?
Oh no, I really enjoy it. It's an honor usually when someone plays and downloads your edits. Yeah. No, yeah, we have that kind of DJ community. It's a note of respect usually. Yeah. Yeah, but don't rip it off, as in like download it through the right channels.
So what are the right channels?
I mean, usually with edits, especially if edits like these, I would say it depends. There are different ways to create edits, but with this particular edit, usually the artist would put it to be downloaded for free via SoundCloud or whatever it may be. But it's important, I say, to download it through the right channels, because so that you don't compromise on the quality that the artist intended for it to be. Yeah.
Okay, like from the artist, from where the artist is sending you to.
Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you feel like you're part of a generation of people who are all doing this at the same time? Like this type of pursuit of like, let's try to mix these sounds and find interesting edits and engage in the art of the remix? I
think, yeah, it's happening in all cultures, though, I have to say. Like, for example, South Asians, a collective called Daytimers had a boiler room a year before Middle of Nowhere did. It's happening across board. Or, yeah, in terms of how even Afrobeat artists are having different collaborations. For example, an Afrobeat artist would have a collaboration with a Punjabi artist. Like, it's just a global phenomenon right now, which is so exciting for music. Yeah.
It's also I feel like it's a very London thing. Because
you think so?
London is, yeah, I think so. Because musically, I think London has always been this mecca for different cultures creating new subcultures artistically, because London is this like insanely I feel like London's like a one of one city that has so many different people. I mean, hashtag colonialism, but it just has so many different groups of people who feel natively London, but also natively from lots of different other places artistically.
Yeah, we do have such a booming musical world here. Like every corner you can discover something new, whether it's like contemporary jazz, and then you pick up influences for your own practice. And yeah, definitely a beautiful place to be when it comes to music, I think.
Yeah. I want to go back to this song. Like, walk me through your process. How does this actually come together? Are you sort of like starting with the SHUTDOWN thing and you're like, all right, what could go well with this tempo wise? Are you starting with the original, the Arabic sample? Like, how's it working?
I think this time it was the Arabic sample first, and I knew I always start with drums. Like, what kind of rhythm do I want here? How bouncy is it? And then once you have your first sample, you kind of think about what would go together and how to string it along. It's a reiterative process. Just play around, see what happens. That's
yeah. Okay, cool. I want to listen to the second one.
Okay.
This one was excellent. All right, let's keep on going. So the second one is Gasolina. Tell us about this.
Oh yeah. I was listening to Ya BNAYYA by Omar Suleiman, and Omar Suleiman is someone who features quite a bit in my sets as a random, like, what the hell just happened? Usually to the untrained ear. Obviously, he's a very popular person. Sometimes when I kind of play him in the festivals, people are just like, why are these mijwas, like, type of things, kind of heavy on the ear that is not used to it happening on stage right now. And I was listening to Ya BNAYYA, and it had such a specific drum pattern that I thought could marry well with GASOLINA, and this is how this was born.
Okay, cool. Let's listen. All right. I like how you're like, you know what? GASOLINA isn't fast enough. We need to up the BPM.
Yes. No, truly though. I'm that type of DJ though. My main sound is just highly infectious, danceable. That's how I would describe it. Yeah, always fast.
What's funny is that for those listening to the podcast who are not watching the YouTube video, you are cracking at your own mix. You're like, Min al-Majnoon who put this together.
Because that's I just remember how it was. I'm like, this is a silly idea. I'm gonna make it. That's the
yeah.
Truly. Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like you're really like a very performative DJ, right?
Yeah.
Which maybe people would say, like, obviously, Mikey, she's a performer. It's the nature of the job. But that's not always the nature of the job. There are like some who are like just like super serious and kind of stoic. There's some that like seem to like like almost comically hit the button with intensity as opposed to just like kind of dancing. And you seem to just like, you're vibing out the entire time.
Yeah.
And also cracking up the entire time.
Yeah, also cracking up the entire time. I think I play the music that makes me move. So it's kind of hard not to move. That's the first thing. The second thing, I truly believe it's a performance art. That's how I see it. As in, whenever I have a set, it's not, oh, I'm just kind of playing music out. It's actually a show. That's how I see it. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, like, there's like all these stories of these crazy, not stories, but just like a trend of these huge raves that are taking Saudi by storm, right? Most notably Middle Beast.
Yeah.
Are you, when you look at the sort of trend, are you like, amazing? They are doing it in all the right ways. This is exactly what I want. Or are there like, there are mistakes being made?
I think you can't get something right from the beginning. I think that's the best sentence to describe it.
Well, what is the source of the cringy face that you just...
I think it's
not talking about Middle Beast specifically, right? But just about the trend more broadly.
Like the trend of kind of having these braves, precisely, or I mean,
or both.
I mean, it's just nice that something like that started for musicians to express themselves to begin with, because I was involved in Middle Beast, but also XP Music Futures, which happens just before it. And I was able to curate this jazz stage with 2 different bands from Riyadh and Jeddah. And the idea that like there are such talents that exist that haven't been showcased, like, and there's now a platform to do so. I think that is just the biggest, like, go ahead, you know? But, yeah, nothing is, I don't think anyone gets anything right the first time. I think in terms of scale, I'm not sure I agree. It should have been as big of how it was from the beginning. I think maybe it should have been a little bit more, I guess,
organic, start small.
Yeah, there's a particular word I'm looking for, but it's not coming to my head. But it should have came at small doses and then bigger and bigger, because then that's how you learn. You learn kind of the minute details of how to run something to a bigger scale. Yeah. Properly.
In terms of the actual DJ culture, because or sort of dance music culture, right? And like maybe EDM is the right word. I'm not sure what the right word is. How is that culture different in when you perform in the Arab world versus when you perform in London and Europe and New York and stuff like that?
I always get asked this question, and I find it a little bit funny, because I think just like anywhere in Europe, and there are different cities, right? Every single...
I mean, I'm in Beirut now, which is like...
every single... Beirut would be so different to me, I don't know, playing a set in Tunis, which I'm about to do. Like, you know, everything is so different, so it's really difficult to compare and contrast, because already there's so much difference between different places. Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you quite a different question then, which I'm glad that you said Tunis. What are your favorite cities to play in the Arab world?
Ooh, I think so far it would have to be what I played in Middle Beast. The reason why, and I think I will have new favorites after I visit Beirut, if I'm honest, because I know what it's like and how people show up. But the reason why I liked it is not because of the obvious reasons one might pick for a favorite set. I just think I loved the challenge. Like it was an audience full of men at the time. And it was kind of as if I needed to prove myself that a woman can steer an audience, or like tell them what to do, like put your hands up, like things like that. And I just enjoy...
When I say ho!
Yeah, whatever it may be, just kind of like really taking lead and taking people on a journey. And it was also, I guess, in a way, a homecoming for me because of growing up there. So personal favorite rather than a energetic favorite. Yeah.
Is it a weird sort of a weird bundle or cocktail of emotions? Is it sort of a complicated set of emotions?
I think so, but it was also even more complicated because on the car ride to Middle Beast, playing to over 40,000 people at the time, the boiler room was dropping whilst I'm in the car. And I think I was more nervous about what would happen with that and how it would be received rather than me playing to so many people. And I just remember the emotions were just like at an all-time high of trying to kind of take in the moment that this now exists at a place that it's just so different to how I knew it to growing up, versus like there's this thing also happening globally and I need to pay attention to it. Yeah, that's what's going on.
Because that must have been the last set that you weren't the boiler room DJ.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like I am the boiler room DJ, but also because there's so much work that has come after it that I would hope that people who have seen me since then even came to my headline that I would hope that it's just, oh, this is a DJ who just plays great music. I hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is the ideal that long term when like 10 years, 15 years from now, it's like, oh, DJ Nooriyah, where is she from again? I have no idea.
Yeah, I think that's just what naturally happens over time if you put in the work. That when you think about Kate Trinada, for example, who's a huge artist, you don't say Kate Trinada from Boiler Room, you say Kate Trinada from his albums or from his music. Yeah, yeah, that's the plan.
Yeah. Okay, let's listen to the third one and we'll keep talking.
Sounds good.
So the third one is FENOH X Seasons.
Yeah, so Seasons by Lil Silva is a London or a UK anthem. It's something that anyone who hears in any of the clubs in London, they'll just start whiling. Like it's just a classic over here. And then FENOH is, of course, Hisham Abbas, also a nostalgic classic for Arabs. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's listen. Amazing.
Thanks.
Okay, so this brings me to a question, which is after I'm hearing this, I'm like, obviously this is a perfect song to mash up. And I don't want you to sort of like to show your cards, but do you have like a Mount Rushmore, like a top 5 most iconic Arabic songs that there needs to be like dozens of mixes for?
No, genuinely no.
Did you grow up loving this type of music? Were you pumping Arabic music always, or is it like I just absorbed it because it was just sort of on?
No, I mean, I grew up in a family where we would sometimes sing together. We have Kulthum playing all the time, Farid Atrash, even Talal Maddah. And yeah, no, it was kind of a family ritual, and at the same time, my dad would play other greats like Louis Armstrong, etc. So like my vast kind of a small fan just dropped on my desk. No, I that kind of vast taste in music really has always been there. Yeah.
Okay. With an edit like this, do you ever get sick of it? Like after like 6 months, you're like, "Khalas, I can't
of
play it
course.
again."
Oh my God, completely. Because, you know, when any artist knows when you are approving mixing kind of and mastering or whatever it may be, you have to listen to it with a fine-tooth comb, maybe over 20 times sometimes. And yeah, you get sick of it for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you approach festival sets like fundamentally different than club sets?
Yeah.
Yeah. How so?
Because if you think about it, I think sets that are a club night or a headline show of my own, the people who are coming for me and they know what I'm about, the type of music that I play. Festivals is sort of, you're coming for a variety of different artists. Maybe you stumble across Nooriyah, who you've never heard of before, and you're supposed to convert the people who are with you and take them alongside you on that journey. So you're having to be a little bit, I think, more receptive to what the audience is telling you, I think. And you're supposed to sort of convince them to come alongside you. Whereas if you're playing and someone knows who you are, they'll just be like, yeah, this is what I came here for. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Okay, before we do the quick Q&A and wrap up,
yes.
I'm really curious, who are your favorite DJs who sort of master this craft of edits?
I don't think there are any. Like really? as in terms of like SWANA sounds particularly, or just in general? No, in general. Well, I think a lot of DJs do edits as a gateway to creating their own music. I think it's like a way to learn the craft a little bit better, learn your sound as well, what you want to do. I think someone who does that really well is called Mina. Mina is a great producer. She has a
MINA.
Yes, correct. She has these like trance classics that she has created edits for that are timeless. Love Mina. I would say I don't know how to pronounce his name, but someone called Soleili. He is, I think, based off of Amsterdam, if I'm not mistaken. Phenomenal kind of person who creates these giant edits. Takes any sample and makes like a home around it. Yeah.
Do you remember, maybe this is too American or maybe it's too old, but do you remember that Girl Talk album?
Tell me more.
So there was this album that came out, I think in like 2005 or 6. And it was artists who came out of nowhere, called Girl Talk, in very early, I think pre-YouTube. Anyway, and it was this incredible mashup album, like insane.
What did it include? I think I was too young, if I am honest, given the...
It was mostly hip hop. It was mostly hip hop and completely, let me see when it first came out so I get this right. The first Girl Talk album came out in 2006. Yeah. And the first big one, but then there was a bunch of other ones beforehand. Feed the Animals was like completely took this world by storm in 2006, 2007, 2008. And everyone was like, who is this artist? How are they doing this? How are they including this many samples in a specific album? You should really, really check it out. I highly recommend it. I remember at the time it was like, how are they shoving so many samples in a specific track? And the edits were excellent and really unlikely mixes, really, really good.
That sounds fabulous. You really know, back in the day, there were also less copyright rules. I wonder, how they went about that. But that's just my producer brain going, thinking about it. Yeah.
A lot less copyright rules. And this was like, pre-iPhone, pre-YouTube.
How
so
exciting.
This was like a lot of Kazaa and finding, I'm trying to remember where I downloaded. I think, you know what? I think the first time I downloaded a Girl Talk album, it was literally on the person's website and just like download zip folder.
That's beautiful.
Because there was no place to download it. There was like pre-SoundCloud, I think.
No, I love that. I can't wait to check it out. Thank you.
Okay, let's do the quick Q&A. The first question should be, what are you listening to these days?
I'm listening to a lot of jazz. I don't know if people know if London has a phenomenal contemporary jazz, they call it, but a lot of people, there's a lot of controversy around what it should be called. So like people like Sons of Kemet, Steam Down, just lots of jazz bands that I love. Also listening to the new J Hus album.
Such a good album.
Yeah,
Insanely good.
I just the way that this man creates new vocabulary that then becomes part of the tapestry of the city and beyond is just phenomenal to me. Yes, that's what I'm listening to right now.
That album is insane. Who would you love to shadow for a day, past or present?
Off the top of my head, I think I would have so many answers, but this might be really strange, but I would love to shadow myself. Is that because I think a lot of the times I'm always on the go and I find myself not really taking in moments, and not just that, sometimes I belittle the amount of effort and work that went into things. Like even after the weather, I'm like, okay, next. And I think sometimes for me to slow down, I always try to think of it from a third person perspective. Otherwise, I would love to see like what Biggie Smalls was up to, like in the booth and stuff.
You're like, after I shadow myself,
Yeah, then
I'll shadow Christopher Wallace.
Yes, exactly.
What do people most misunderstand about your work?
This is an easy one. Is that we're just pressing buttons. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. What do you think people mean when they say that?
They think that it's like a playlist that someone put together and they're just pressing buttons. That's what they mean. They mean anyone can do it and it doesn't take time or effort. That's what they mean. At
any point in your childhood, did you think that as well?
No, never.
Okay. You always knew and know there is artistry and skill.
I think anytime you choose to be vulnerable enough to stand before people and showcase something is already a step that a lot of people wouldn't take. So there's already a courage there. Yeah.
Do you feel like, first of all, you have two different jobs, and one is writing music and with edits and stuff like that? That's one very specific job. That is a composer essentially. And then a different job is a performer, right? But your primary job as a performer is basically to manage the crowd. Is that what you feel?
Not so much manage, but it's a dance. So, they're free to do what they want and I'm free to take them where I want to. And I think a lot of people also get that mistaken because people feel like they could request songs. And there's a unspoken rule, which is now more spoken about, that you shouldn't. You're coming alongside kind of the journey of the DJ. I think it's a dance. You see what people react to, and if you decide where you want to take it next. That's how I see it. I don't contain them. They kind of where we contain each other, I would say.
Yeah. If you played a set and everyone was like totally into it but not dancing, would you be frustrated?
With the type of music I play, probably. But I'd have to think, like, what setting is this? Where are we? Where people are not. Sometimes I'm like, ooh, why are these people being stush? Sometimes there are valid reasons. I don't know.
Yeah. Sometimes I love dancing. But sometimes I'm at like a place and I'm just like kind of into it. And I don't actually feel like dancing. And I always think that I'm offending the person completely because they're like,
it's cool that you're thinking about it to begin with. I think it's fine to relax. Also, you're not supposed to imagine me playing like a 2-hour set and you're expecting people to dance for 2 hours. Like that's a big ask. But it's just about, I think also, for example, if I go to one of my girl Sharice's sets, she's an AMMA piano DJ. AMMA piano is a completely different feel. You'll see people in the room like just like that, and that is a good enough nod. It just depends on the music, I think, as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. And the last question is, from the past, who would be your dream collaborator?
I don't know. I have so many possibilities, but I'll just pick Baligh Hamdi, the composer.
Who is this person?
He's created, a lot of Abd al-Halim's, مثلا خسارة was composed by him. Just a fabulous composer, a legend in our time. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Nooriyah, everyone can find you online very easily. If you're just listening to this, it's Nooriyah. So fun to talk to you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
As well.
I really, really appreciate having you on.
Thank you. I appreciate it as well. Thank you.